Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. For part two of today's show, as we look in at the Fulham Palace game, which is coming up this Sunday, Craven Cottage. A game which is always quite exciting for me, being as I live in Croydon, and all of my neighbours are Palace fans. So I love this one. Joining me is the OGs. AJ, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. Excited for this London derby.
Yeah, me too. Drew, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, my friend.
And Mozza, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good, thank you. All things considered.
$1 million.
Let's start this one where we really should do and talk about the squad, considering the game on Tuesday night that was completely mental against Man City. Looking at how we think we should set up for this game, not necessarily how Marco's going to, but how we should set up for this game. AJ, I always ask you this question, mate. You know, looking at the game on Tuesday night, looking at the game that we've got coming up on Sunday, what changes would you make to that starting lineup? What tactical changes would you make in order to make sure we can come out with 3 points against Palace?
I want to see what we saw in the second half of that City game. I want to see Kevin and Chukwueze playing together. I want to see Iwobi in the midfield. I want to see one of Lukic and or Berge. And based on the performance of that last game, it's more likely to be Berge. And I want to see more of Kusiasari.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to see this double pivot again. I sort of understood it against City, but against Palace, we need to take the game to them. We need to have pace, so it doesn't make sense having that because it slows us down. You know, this Palace team particularly struggle when people play at pace against them. But in order to get anything out of this game, we're gonna have to be resolute in defence. And I think for me, that's the main issue. My main concern coming out of Tuesday night was just how easily we were beaten. Almost, well, every shot that was on target went in. So it's one of those things that we defensively have to be better than we were. Drew, Palace is always a hard game, right? They always give us a hard game, and the Cottage especially. We know that they are bit of mediocre form at the moment. They're winning games, but not necessarily convincingly. Probably stretching a bit thin because of playing in Europe, and their squad isn't massive. What do you want to see going into this one in terms of us sort of taking the game to Palace?
Well, they beat us twice last season at the Cottage, didn't they?
Yeah.
And which was annoying because they've got one way of playing and they play on the counter attack. Even when they're at home, they play on the counter attack. They are struggling for form at the moment simply because I know a few Palace fans like you do. One of the complaints that I get from them is Glasner doesn't change it up. He'll play the same formation and play the same, make the same substitutions at the same time. They're obviously missing Sarr on Sunday, but it's all going to be about pace and power when they break, isn't it, as usual? But that undid us last time. I think we were a better football side than them. I think Adam Wharton is hugely important for them. But let's be honest. I mean, our last couple of games against them at the Cottage, I'd just like to be in it because I appreciate they caught us when they were getting stronger and we were on our second half season slump that we've talked about ad infinitum on this show. But I just like us to be competitive because they're not that much better than us, if at all. So I don't want to be losing 3-0 again. But like you say, defensively, oh dear, oh dear. I mean, we can't have a repeat of what we saw on Tuesday night. That was just catastrophic. Okay, there's no Haaland and there's no Foden, but they've still got players that can hurt us.
Well, arguably, you look at their strike force, and you look at Mateta, who I think is probably arguably one of the best finishers in the league. If he gets half a chance, he'll take it. And he's probably the reason why Palace do so well in games, because even games when they're completely out of it, he'll pop up and he'll do something and he'll score a goal. Ismail Assar being not available is actually a massive positive for us, because he's such a pain in the ass in the nicest way possible. You talk about players like that, he's a pain in the ass and he makes things difficult. But they still have some really good players in their team. Arguably, they don't lose many games, because between Dean Henderson, who has proven he's in a don't know what he's done the last couple of years, but his goalkeeping level has gone up loads, and he's been excellent. And Mark Gahey, who we know is probably on his way out of Palace at the end of the season, they've been excellent defensively, and that's where they look good and other teams don't. Arguably, they're only 4 points ahead of us in the league table, but that's come because they've been really resolute, and it's probably why they're doing so well in Europe as well. They're doing terribly in Europe, which is great, but it is what it is. Going into it, I want to see something different from the last couple of years, as you say, Drew. They've blown us away at home. What, 3 years in a row now? They always just seem to just have something against us at the Cottage. But it's weird, because we usually do them at Selhurst Park too. It's one of those weird ones for us that we seem to flip reverse form when we play each other. But Mozza, going into this one, mate, we spoke about Jonah Kunasari. Uh, we spoke about Raul, especially at the end of the Man City game when we're doing the review, and we, as a sub that we don't mind seeing coming in. Is there anything you want to see different? Any changes that you would personally make going into this one? Are you happy just to sort of take the intensity that we finished against Man City and hope that can see us through?
Little from column A, little from column B. I prefer the starting lineup to be what it was against Spurs. I said in my review show of us having just played Man City, and see Chukwueze starting, at the very least. But I've been thinking about it as well. I'd actually like to see Cuenca in defence. I think that's going to be a massive part of our game. What Drew was talking about, Palace fans and their complaints and their style of football. Where have I heard all that before? Echoes what we do.
Yeah, I think Cuenca coming in is probably a good shout from you, because we had this discussion in the last couple of weeks about, we got the AFCON boys leaving in a couple of weeks, and we needed to let him have some match time and to go in. I was a bit unimpressed with Bassi against Man City. I know he's man to man against Haaland, and that is what that is. But I think him and Anderson both went walkies quite a lot during that game, and a couple of the City goals were caused by them not being on it. Anderson against Palace, he's had a couple of stinkers against them in the Fulham shirts. He's really got to turn that around. And Bassi, I don't know. I don't want to say he's been bad, but his form over the last 4 or 5 games has not been great, right? So it makes sense to change that. How confident are you that is a sub that change, or them staying, would be good to give us a bit more defensive rigidity, because we've been a bit weak, especially at home recently?
In my head, I had it that you'd replace Basti with Cuenca, but now you've made me remember the Anderson connection and his unfortunate mistakes of what happened last season. Happens to the best of us, but also the history. I wonder if with AFCON coming up, if Basti and Iwobi are maybe playing a bit cautiously in order to avoid injuries. So I'd be all for I'd be all for resting Iwobi over Bassi, but I think if there was going to be that defensive change, I wouldn't mind Bassi sitting there, not playing over cautiously, not having AFCON be his main focus is on the pitch at Craven Cottage. So you could have Cuenca and Anderson in the middle there. I just think we've been bullied by Mateta. He's a big boy. Is it going to be a game where we put out all our big boys, maybe much to our dismay? I'm talking about Berg and Lukic, and the dirty phrase now, it seems, that is the double pivot within the midfield. But Is it a weaker Palace squad? Are we saying then? I think is that
They're
what
only
we've got
missing
going
Sarr,
for
I
us?
think.
Well,
Yeah.
they're only missing
So,
Star from their actual squad, but when you consider that last year against us at the Cottage, Wharton ran the show. Eze walked through us like there was no tomorrow. Wharton's been slightly out of form. I was talking to my mate who's a Palace fan today. He said he was actually really poor in their game at Burnley during the week. Um, so him being out of form is going to be helpful. Them having no Eze to walk through us is going to be exceptionally helpful. Saab not being there, he's a tricky player, is also going to be helpful. But for us, I think it's quite simple that the two players we have to keep one quiet, which is Mateta, and we have to keep one busy, and that's Mark Gay. It's quite simple as that. And for that, we probably need to have a bit of pace. And that double pivot, that dirty double pivot, as it is, completely kills any of our pace. It kills our momentum half the time because it's too negative. AJ, looking at this one, I know you've spoken about what you play and what you change. I think it's very vital that either Kevin or Chukwueze starts this game, right? And with Chuck maybe being a bit more positive and a bit more fresh of late, I think it would be a game for him that if anyone's going to keep Mark Gahey busy and having to watch his line, it's going to be Chuck probably out on the right rather than on the left. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I want to see both, to be honest. I think both
Mm.
benefits us in this game. No discredit to Wilson, who's definitely earned his place thus far, and if he starts, I wouldn't be shocked at it because he's done exceptionally well. He's come off of good international duty, but equally, if we want to get into a position where later in the season we're not completely dead on our legs again, these are the sort of games where we can go, you know what, Chuck, you're out on the right hand side. Kevin, show us what you actually can do. You had a good cameo against Man City. Prove it again in this game. You go out on the left. Wilson, I know you want to play. Sit this one out. You'll come on maybe in the 60th minute, pay a big impact, and then you'll start the next game without question. It's that squad management. And I'd love to see both Kevin and Chuck at this stage because I think we're at that point where we're ready for it, and I think they can do a serious number on the back three system that that Palace employ.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. I would love to see them both start. I think if they both start, that means Iwobi's likely to be in the middle, and that will be an exceptionally positive, mind frame starting a game for us. And we all bemoaned Marco Silva's negativity against City starting off the game, which ended in loads of positivity and us playing 35 minutes of the best football we've probably seen Fulham play, and we still lost that game. Drew, one of the other positions before we talk about our usual players to watch, ESR. I thought he was exceptional on Tuesday. We spoke about that in the match review. Would you be tempted to let him keep his place and keep King on the bench for this one, or do you think King's probably likely to start this game?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't see what ESR has done wrong. Ash, you were with me, or I say with me, you were in the ground when I was at Selhurst Park a couple of seasons ago when ESR scored against Palace and he played really well. He's such a fragile character that, I mean, it was famously said of him that when him and Reece Nelson were on our books, Reece Nelson could play his way out of bad form. ESR can't. So my concern is that if we drop him, it might dent his confidence. And when he is confident, and this is a hill I am prepared to die on, he is outrageously talented.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his close control on Tuesday night was exceptional. I mean, he like I said in the review show, he was the player. He looked like the player we thought we were getting. So if you said to me, Ash, Drew, we're going to go with him in the attacking midfield, number 10 slot, you wouldn't get any arguments from me. And I am, those people that follow me on Twitter will know I'm an absolute devotee of Josh King because I thought it was losing him in the summer, which I thought we were going to do at one point, would have been a catastrophe of biblical proportions.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that Josh he's done nothing wrong either, by the way. But I think the key word that AJ used there is squad management. And I think that young legs in Josh King. It's not. It's also important not to work them too much and too often. It's important to have time to sort of reflect on the game time that you have in. And I think it would be harsh on Emma Smith Rowe to drop him after the way he played on Tuesday night. He's had a start and a sub appearance now where every single one of us have been praising his work rate, not just his ability on the ball, but his work rate. And to drop him when we're finally seeing that work rate would be a bit harsh for me. Um, you know, I love Josh King. I want Josh King to play every minute of every game of football I ever watch for the next 20 years, right? But I don't want that to be a detriment of players that are putting effort in and and are being effective at the time. So we have to see that, lads. Let's finish this one how we always do. Let's talk about players to watch from both teams and give a scoreline prediction. Uh, Hopefully, we'll be quite positive after the way that the Man City game finished on Tuesday night. Drew, I'll start with you, mate. Can I have a player to watch from both teams, please, and your scoreline prediction?
Player to watch from Palace. Well, obviously we've mentioned Matete. He's the one that does seem to do well against us. But if we are going to have success in this game, we've got to stop Adam Wharton running the midfield. We lose the midfield, we're going to lose the game. For us, I'm going to pick ESR if he starts because I really, really want him to succeed. I really do. I want him to be happy. I want him to be confident. And if he plays like he did against City, then he can have a significant impact on the game. I know the obvious answer is someone like Chuck, who's been playing out of his skin, but I'm just rooting for ESR.
Have you got a scoreline prediction?
Oh yeah, of course. Scoreline prediction. I could see it going. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in this one. I could see it going 2-1 either way, to tell you the truth. I think there'll be the odd goal in it.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair shout, to be absolutely fair with you. AJ, how about yourself, mate? Player to watch on both teams and the scoreline prediction, please.
Ooh, yeah, it's hard to argue with Adam Wharton. I think he's going to be a crucial part of the game if he continues his form at the moment. We've got nothing to worry about. If he has a performance like he did last time they played us, we're going to be absolutely terrified of how well he runs that midfield, which may just Adam Wharton on his own gives question marks to whether or not the return of the double pivot comes back again, unfortunately, because you sit there and go, oh, you need the extra man to deal with him. I don't think we do, personally, but I can see why Marco might think that, and that's the reason I think Adam Wharton's probably the biggest question mark around Palace's side and how much we have to worry about it. As for Fulham, I actually think it's going to be Anderson, because last few games out against Palace, he's had absolute shockers. I don't know what it is, whether it's nerves, whether it's the other players know him too well from training with him too much and are able to know how to get the better of him. I don't know, but he hasn't looked stellar since we bought him when playing against them. And that's a concern of mine because I don't think he'll be dropped for the game either. For obvious reasons, he's been very good and has earned his recent captaincy. I'd also like to put a special question mark on Bird Leno because I think this is the sort of game where good goalkeeping can make or break the game. Scoreline prediction 2-1 to Fulham. We're at home.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout close to the Spurs. Mozza, how about yourself, mate? A couple of players to watch and a scoreline prediction, please.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Mr. Papadopoulos himself. If I can get that in before you, Ash, Leno, for us to watch. Is there a world where he's not starting over LeConte? Probably not. But if Marco is out of character, not stubborn, I think he will be Oh, one to watch. I was going to say someone else then, but I think my focus would just be on him, to be honest. And for that reason, I mentioned Mateta earlier, so I'm going to stick with Mateta because I think he's going to be a massive threat to our defence, which has been shaky. Quite a bit, a fair bit. And scoreline prediction, I've got a figure of 2-1 in my head as well. I can't figure out who to, so I'll be positive. Of course, I'll say 2-1 Fulham. Let's see. Is it going to be a full house? You saying the same, Mish?
Yeah, well, for me, one player that no one's actually mentioned for Palace is Daniel Munoz, who I think has been quite good for Palace, especially going forward. He seems to be able to break the line for a wing back quite well. Palace love to play on the counter attack, as you know, Drew's mentioned, and anyone who's watched them can see. Philippe Mateta is the natural person to pick to watch out for because he scores their goals. Gahey's the one easy to pick because he's the reason why they keep so many clean sheets. And Henderson, as well as I said, has been on excellent form as a goalkeeper. But for me, Munoz is actually the one I'd watch out for because he can be really tricky to defend against because he pops up in places. Um, for Fulham, it's going to be the centre back pairing of Anderson and Bassi, or Anderson and Cuenca, or whoever that plays in that centre back position for Fulham on Sunday, because I was very unimpressed with their performance against City on Tuesday. And if we're going to get anything out of this game, they are going to have to be paying attention 100%. Palace are tricky on the counter. And often they win games by close margins because they don't concede and they have the ability to pop up in one moment or two to score goals. I'd love to see a start a game like we did against Spurs, but it's unlikely to happen because Palace don't make mistakes like Spurs do at the back. So we have to go with that. Scoreline wise, I'm going to be slightly more positive than everybody else. I'm going to say 3-1 Fulham, but that's only because I would love us to sort of close down the goal difference in the league table as well. I know that we're looking over our shoulder and we go, we are 5 points from the bottom three, but we're only 6 points from fourth. So we have to look at, a couple of good results and we will shoot up the table. If we win on Sunday, technically we're a point behind Palace and they've had a good start to the season and we've been poor. So it's one of those ones, isn't it? The table is very close at the moment, and we need to get some results in. At home against Palace is a game that we should be winning, and it is as simple as that. Lads, thank you very much for joining me for this one. I know it's going to be a tight one at the Cottage on Sunday. It's going to be a cold and wet one again on the Cottage on Sunday. I'm going to have to travel the whole journey to and from the game, surrounded by Palace fans, so that'll be fun. If Palace win, I'll have all my neighbours knocking on my door as they usually do. So it'd be nice to
Asking for
have a
food.
quiet Sunday night and none of them knocking on when they know I've come back from the game. So hopefully Fulham can do it, and we can have a nice positive match review next week when we do. Guys, thank you again for joining me. Hopefully Fulham can pull one out of the bag and we can get a nice win against Palace. Because it's been a while since we've done that at home. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. If you haven't done so already, come and sub to the channel. Everyone who does really does help us. We're exceptionally close to this T-shirt giveaway now. As I said this morning on our Man City review, we were at the time of recording only a couple of people off doing that, and we will do that on Monday's episode if people are actually subscribed to the channel. So thank you very much for joining me on that one as well. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a better view of where Fulham are looking, especially with the AFCON coming up. It's going to be a tight couple of weeks for the club and for Fulham, and for us fans as well. Hopefully, we can look up rather than down, and going into New Year, be positive. That'd be great. Anyway, thanks very much for joining us. Come on, you Whites.